Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blank Gates. Welcome to another edition. Today is going to be exciting because we were trying to do something yesterday and then we just kind of ran out of time. And then today is going to be the day where it worked. So that's kind of cool. Um, Now, the thing is, like, I'm not a technologist. I'm not really, I'm not a computer science guy. I literally have no idea what this whole thing is about, and so we're coming at this from the perspective of just some guy who's using AI to try to make something, and to be honest, it's not working. I just realized today that this is a total waste of time, and so I just want to announce that this will be my very last. Just kidding. Okay, let's get started. So, first, take a quick peek. If we jump into my project management, my current project management app, I just have a to-do list, and then we're working on some calibration documents. We're focusing on something called automated user journeys, AI linter test, visual ground truth, a test process inside of Windsurf, and then and then checking the old. Okay, anyways, what's the issue? So then inside of our little Kanban chart, what do we got in process? Adding to the calibration process, docs, drive the car, AI, linter, visual ground truth. All right. What does that actually mean? So basically what it means is inside of Windsurf, actually I can't just magically switch over to that screen unless I use this one. 1 second. I think if I use window, then I can do it. Ding dong. All right, so here's my Windsurf window. I just want to make the Windsurf window approximately the same size, back and forth between them. Okay, so I don't even really know what's going on. I just kind of forgot what's going on. All right, so what we're doing here is show active conversations. I think what we're doing is we got two conversations that we're working with. But the strange thing is that like the name changes. It's weird. I didn't realize that this was going to happen, that like the name of the actual conversation is going to change as I move back and forth. I would prefer if I could actually change the name because it's like the same thing which is going on in, for example, my Gemini account. So if we go over to Gemini, why can't I switch now to Gemini? Huh. All right. So it turns out that if you share a window, for example, if I share the cursor window, then I can't easily just click over and share my Chrome window. Strange. I was expecting something a little different. Anywho, all right, so what I'm talking about is this. So what we got here is in this window, I got something which I call this one free 4. Now, why is it free? Because right now we're developing the free version of my web app. And we've been talking to this guy for a long time, and he's starting to lose context. So here you go. So this is an excellent and final evaluation of our process. You've correctly synthesized all of our experiences into a clear, actionable strategy. Comparison between the junior and senior cascade instances has provided the last piece of wisdom we needed. My response to the junior architect is one of complete agreement and authorization. It has successfully completed its training and now ready to lead. Here's my official response. So here's the senior architect final handoff. Now, as you know, if you've been watching my videos, this isn't actually the final handoff because I'm still going to come back to this senior architect. It's a senior architect because I've literally been using this architect for weeks. And it's developed a lot of muscle memory. Although because it's like already reached its context window, then or at least it's approaching. I think it's already past it. So it means that some of the documents and content from the beginning of the chat is now beginning to be like summarized, and we don't have the same clarity that we used to. But it's okay. Why? Because we have these calibration docs. So when you're working with AI, you have to be very cognizant of the token context window, because you're going to have to relaunch a new window every so often so that you have like the full context. You have some available tokens in your context window, which means that the AI can work at its optimal capacity. Now, for it to do that, you need to have these things I call calibration documents, and you also have to have like a period of time where you are kind of working with two different windows. I do have a small issue, as you can see inside of the calibration area of my to-do list. I do have this thing called check details of new versus old calibration documents. So this time when I was updating my calibration document, what I decided to do was just keep the old version. So you can see here we have the older version down here. Because like, I feel like maybe there's some details inside of the older version which I need to save and need to think about. Because I noticed that the new version, particularly, for example, if we look at the decisions log and you go into here, you got these decisions, and like the rationale is one sentence, the context is a couple of sentences. And then I went into the old version and I noticed that, like, I don't know, maybe it's similar, but yeah, it looks about the same. Well, for example, this has a decision, a rationale, context, and lessons learned. So if we look at July 2nd, in fact, let's just copy this one. And let's go up to July 2nd. All right, and then let's click, let's look at this difference. Decision, adopted the three-phase strategic plan, public and storefront and free app enhancement, backend pivot and integration, pro team feature completion, rationale, manage the risk and separating low risk marketing, site development, and complex architectural shift. Okay, so it's like basically the same, but then suddenly, beep, we missed the context. Our context disappeared. Why is it that our context disappeared? Confirm the existence of partial pro version code base using, okay, so is it important? Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. But we'll just ask the AI to decide if that's important, because there's no sense in me doing work that I don't need to do. Okay, so we have this two window system where we have the old architect, we have the new architect, and then after we update the new calibration documents, then we got the okay, understood. So the calibration is complete, the handoff is accepted. I will now operate as the sole architect of the project Arrowhead. I've registered the final amendments to our core process document. The operation manual decisions log is amended to include two new mandatory protocols: protocol of preemptive analysis, AI linter, and protocol for visual ground truth, the screenshot diff. And the OMDL will be version to 8.1 in the next handoff, which is talking about what? Where's the OMDL? Here's the OMDL. We're currently in 8.0. So this is it just made an amendment to that document. So that's how it works. That's how the system works, which is based off of it's called the Stable and Continuity of Long-Term Projects, which is called the Phoenix Protocol Charter. And it gives the explanation of the protocol. So we have this automated system that as we work together, it will just recommend some changes to our calibration documents. And then after we get close to the end of the context window, then it's going to update those documents. My role, okay, so I will proceed to the immediate next action, which is issuing the final implementation prompt for Cascade J1 to begin Operation Drive the Car. Now, what is Operation Drive the Car? The main idea, there's two things that are happening at the same time. One thing is that, like, I started writing tests. So what's a test? A test is when Windsurf or Cursor or Replit, you actually tell the software to write some JavaScript test. And what it's doing is when you implement some kind of new feature, or if you try to make some kind of change, it'll actually go through like automatically, and it'll like figure out what is the issue with the code, where is the bug. So this is an automated test to catch bugs. And I'm sure that we have like real world testing software that can do this. But in this case, since we have AI, it just wrote its own little test. I spent like 30 minutes doing one test. It just takes all day long. And so I'm just like, one day I was just like, hey, is it possible? Like, what do we do? Like, is there other things that software engineers do to improve the ability to write good code? Because I'm just having a really hard time using Cursor Windsurf, and I'm just having a lot of errors and creating a lot of bugs, and like, it's just, I'm in the mud. I'm like, I'm not. I can't. So I'm watching this, this video yesterday. Uh, this guy, Andrew Ngungungung. And like, what he's saying is, listen, he's like, hey, everybody needs to know how to code. And he gave it a really good example. So he said in his video, he said, listen, I was trying to create this image of this monkey, and the thing is that, like, I couldn't really do it because, like, if you have a really good prompt, then you can make a really great monkey picture. And his example was talking about basically here it is. So his example was saying, hey, listen, so I have somebody on my team that is really good at understanding art history. And since he understands art history, that means that he can create this monkey art better than me. But in order to create this monkey art better than me, you really have to have like an understanding of art history. So he was able to create something with the computer, but you have to have some like really good knowledge of art history to be able to create this like great version of the image. So for example, maybe so he's comparing like this version to some other versions that other people could make, which doesn't have the context and the understanding of what's going on. So he's talking about like how important it is to learn code. And if you don't know how to code, then you're not going to be able to make the really fine edits. So yeah, okay, I agree, but unfortunately, for me, I'm not going to learn how to code. So that's just the way it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just keep working on my system, because I think that the market for people who don't know how to code is way bigger than the market with people that know how to code. And I also think that these AI bots are going to get smarter. And so yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree that there's always going to be some gap between people who know exactly like the very minute little. But then what's the difference? So the question is like, what's the difference between like so if you know how to code, then you're just like in the system, and then you have a way better opportunity to be able to ask questions to the AI about very fine detailed things. Yeah, I agree. Now the other thing about his video that he was talking about was that like before there was like one product manager to like four engineers, but now the engineers have superpowers and big muscles, and so now it's like it's flipped. So now we need three product engineers and one and three product developers and one engineer. So it means at some point, so the value is now on the product manager. So my focus is both to be a product manager, and what's this other thing that I'm learning? I'm learning prompt engineering. So yeah, I mean, I noticed that he has some courses about like how you can improve your ability to engineer prompts, but I agree and I disagree. So here's two problems. So he's saying, listen, here's two very minute skills you need to understand. One is you need to know how to code, because then when you're using AI, then you'll be way more specific about the changes that you want the AI to do for you. And you also need to know prompt engineering, because then you'll know exactly how to communicate with the AI. And I think that what's going to actually happen is what I'm hoping is going to happen is that the ability for AI to understand you is going to improve. At least that's what I'm hoping. All right. So anyway, so with my ability, with my understanding, and just working with my ability, without going too detailed into prompt engineering, but rather learning how to use the two window concept for one AI to prompt the other AI, and then to use the two windows inside of Gemini to then prompt Windsurf. All right. So it's I call it the two AI system. I mean, I just made it up, but like it's now the four AI system, because I got two Geminis and I got two Cascades. But the issue is the same. So what happened is now my new, so this one's called Free 5. This is my newest architect, and here it is. Here's the prompt. So write the Puppeteer script for the first end-to-end user journey test, the brainstorm habit. What is he talking about? Well, we're talking about like my actual website. So in here, we have this thing called Brainstorm. My argument is that if you have a company, for example, maybe I just ought to start doing this in my videos myself. My goodness, my dog's losing his mind. Okay, he's asleep. All right, what day is today? Friday. So it's Friday, so let's just click 1. You know, in Chinese, Monday is it's just the number 1, and Tuesday is 2. Also, the months of the year, it was so crazy. I went to China, I was learning Chinese, and I'm like, so what's January? They're like, it's called 1 month. I was like, okay, what's February? Let me guess, 2 month. Yes, it's 2 month. Okay, good. And March is 3 month. Yes. Okay, so December is 12 month. Yes, fantastic. How about Monday? They're like, it's 1 day. 1 day? No, and Friday is 5 day, right? Yes, Friday is 5 day. Okay, fantastic. I love this language. You know, Chinese is the worst thing that ever happened to me as far as learning languages because then I went to Russia and it's like an extremely complex language. And I still can't speak Russian after like 7 years of studying it because it's so complex and I'm not willing to put in the effort. Like Chinese, you don't even need to put in that much effort as long as you like to draw. I would say the only thing difficult, there's 2 things that are difficult about Chinese, and only 2 things that are difficult. Learning to write the characters and learning the tones. And if you can just like when you start learning Chinese, if you can just be really, really slow and deliberate about the tones. I actually used my head, ni hao. And if you're just really deliberate about the tones, then and you'll get used to it. And I loved characters, so I would just sit and write characters all day. I loved characters. And Russian, I don't love Russian because there's no characters. It's a language that uses letters, and I'm just not a big fan of sitting down and writing the same letter over and over and over and over and over. It's so ridiculous. Gordon, do you think I should change my attitude? Gordy, should I change my attitude about it? No. Okay, good. Gordon said I don't have to change my attitude. But anyways, now I'm learning French, and maybe I should change my attitude because I now firmly believe, I firmly believe that the ability for you to learn a language is directly proportional to your ability to sit down and write sentences by hand with a pen and paper. That's what I believe with all my heart. I believe that the brain is connected to the paper, and if you want to remember words, you literally have to sit down and you have to write them with your hand. So it means developing a habit. And another habit you need to develop is on Fridays, day 5, we need to be on step 5. So there's 5 steps for our brainstorming. This page changed a little bit. Maybe it changed, maybe it didn't. All right, so today is play devil's advocate. How could our own plan fail? What are its critical flaws, hidden assumptions, or potential blockers? Next, focus on the competition. It's easier to pass cars going in slow motion. How could we actively slow our competitors down and create strategic disadvantages for them? Okay, so this is version 1 and it's the free version. So what we could do is, I'm just going to share my whole screen. So what we're going to do here, we're using the free version, which means that, we don't necessarily have all the features and bells and whistles and all the wonderful things that we need. But we have Gemini. And everybody in the world has Gemini. Or ChatGPT or whatever. You could use Grok. Why don't we use Grok 4? Remember Grok? Let's put Grok 4 up because everyone's talking about it. Grok. Okay. Where's my Grok 4? You have to upgrade to get Grok to unlock. Fuck, I don't have $300. I don't have $3,000. What is this Grok Super Heavy? Exclusive preview. We will show you the coolest thing ever in the world. $30, man. Super Grok is $30 a month. Amazing. All right. Well, let's just compare apples to oranges. So, check this out. It's Friday, so which means, all right, so today's Friday, and I want to start a new habit, which is basically every time I start a new video. Wait, I got to change this to reasoning. There we go. So I just wanted to change now we're on 2.5 Pro reasoning because I just want you to be like more smarter about this. So, all right. So, I have this concept that it came from a book called Create Crucial Insight by Thomas J. Buchholz. And in Thomas J. Buchholz's book, he has this concept called inventiveness. And so his inventiveness, it's basically some ideas that can help people to be more inventive. And it means to be inventive, obviously, it means to go from 0 to 1 or to go from one to many. And he basically has 9 I's, the letter I. And inside of this methodology, he talks about things, uses, it's a theme. And then this theme of reuse, it comes out as a typical activity called imitate. And then he has this thing called a theme called synergies. And the typical activity is integrate. And then there's a theme called use or uses. And the typical activity is implement. And then there's a theme called products. And then the typical activity is innovate. And there's a theme called prototypes. And the typical activity is invent. And then there's a theme called ventures, and the typical activity is instigate. And then there's a theme called concepts, and the typical activity is ideate. There's a theme called passivity, and the typical activity is ignore. There's a theme called opposition, and the typical activity is interfere. So you can see that the 9 I's, imitate, integrate, implement, innovate, invent, instigate, ideate, ignore, and interfere, are the main ideas. So Thomas Buchholz, he says, determine activities or skills needed to effect desired innovation, optimize or harmonize teams, activities, skills, attitudes, or proclivities regarding innovation, characterize entities or activities based on their foci or on various stages of innovation, determine opportunities to change or emphasize regarding stages of innovation. So I took his chapter where basically the idea is that people can state instances in sentences paralleling the following or other prototypes. For example, 1, the endeavor needs square bracket this activity square bracket. 2, square bracket this entity square bracket does square bracket this activity square bracket. Or 3, square bracket this entity square bracket exhibits square bracket this mindset square bracket. So that's it. So there's 3 different sentences. The endeavor needs this activity, this entity does this activity, this entity exhibits this mindset. And so what we're going to do is we want to go through these different inventiveness concepts by understanding the themes and typical activities. Now, when I went through Tom's work, then I think that it's really great. And then finally, I just decided to simplify it just a little bit, and I created basically just 5. So instead of using all of the I's, we're just going to use 5 of the I's. And now we're going to have one of the I's each day, and then each day, 5 of the days of the week, we're going to be just focusing on one of the ideas. So in today we're going to focus on the step 5. I call it step 5 in my brainstorming module. And basically the question is, it says, first, play devil's advocate. How could our own plan fail? What are its critical flaws, hidden assumptions, or potential blockers? Next, focus on the competition. It's easier to pass cars going in slow motion. How can we actively slow our competitors down or create a strategic disadvantage for them? And then you're supposed to respond, for example, our biggest flaw is, or a key assumption that might be wrong is, or this could be blocked by, or to slow down competitor X, we could build a competitive moat by, or A strategic move to create disadvantage for them is, so there's just a bunch of different ideas to help get the brainstorm going. And particularly in this situation, we're thinking very specifically about competitors and who else is working on similar innovations and similar products, and also what are some substitutes, and who are the main competitors in the field, and also what kind of innovation are they, how are things changing over time. There's a lot of different things that we're thinking about, and we're trying to understand like a lot of things, like where's the market going, and what are the things that are changing the way that how companies do things, how can we make our product better. But most particularly, we want to talk about the relationship between our customers and the product that we're preparing for them. And we want to make sure that our product is loved by our people, so that they love our product, they use our product, and then when they see the other products that other people are trying to give them, then they're not going to be tempted to try other people's products because they love our product so much. Now, I'll give you an example. So, for example, in the book, The Mom Test, there are some principles about like how to get information from our customers, and what is the most important information that we can get from our customers, and also about making potential changes to our products. And a lot of it has to do with asking open-ended questions and getting our customers to talk about their specific use cases, like how they made decisions in the past, how they used our product in the past, how they would like to use our product in the future, and how they and why they might be switching to other people's products. And I think that by really focusing on our relationship, the relationship that our product has with our customers, then we can make sure that our products stay with our product. And I think we can identify three basic types of situations. The first situation I call the virgin. The virgin is a customer who has never used our product before. In fact, they've never used this type of product before. Maybe they had some kind of substitute, and maybe they did the service for themselves. Maybe they used some other type of product. Maybe they had some other thinking process. Maybe they had some other behavior. And then now they're using this new product for the first time. So that's the virgin. And then the second one is the divorcee. So the divorcee is somebody who was using a competitor product, and eventually they just decided that that relationship wasn't fulfilling their innermost needs, and then they decided to stop using the product of the competitor. And then, so that's the second type. And then the third type, it's like this question about like, how do you get people to cheat? Meaning, like, if somebody is already using a competitor product and they're happy to use that competitive product, then what is it that we can do, and how is it that we should think about this in order to get them to think about using a competitor product, for example, our product. So all of these things, I want you to consider them. And now we're going to start to make this part of our weekly journey. So today is Friday. I want you to remember that this is the prompt for Friday. And yeah, so that's actually, I don't really want to talk any more about this today. I just wanted to upload this idea, and then maybe next Friday, you're going to get more context. For example, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week, you're going to get more context. And then eventually next Friday, we'll have more to talk about. So I want you to put this in your memory that this is the content for Friday. And I want you to return to this concept once we get there on Friday. All right. So I don't actually want it to... Now, what we're going to do is we're going to change this, the name of this to, we're going to rename it to Brainstorm Modules. Okay, daily brainstorm modules. Daily. Now it's called brainstorm modules. That's what it is. Of course, I've said this. Oops, daisies. Remember the context for Friday conversation about brainstorming competitive analysis. You can always ask me to forget things or manage things I've saved for you in the saved information page. I look forward to our session next week and building on this with the context you provide. There you go. Now, we're not going to go into Grok right now because, I don't know, like, is it going to provide? I only got Grok 3, so what's the point? What are we actually supposed to be doing today? So what I did was I took this this prompt and I put it into Windsurf. And first I put it into the old architect. Is this the old architect or the new architect? So the way you know is, okay, can you tell me the important lines from this PRD? So this is the new architect writing end-to-end brain test. That is the new architect. So I put it in the calibration documents. And then I had some kind of little, I don't know, kind of, was it useful or not useful? I don't know. So I just kind of said, okay, well, we got two windows. We're using two different Cascade instances. And then so what I did was I pasted this, this prompt, the prompt for Cascade for task J1. I put it into the old architect. And then what I asked was, I said, okay, so I want you, okay, so it actually wrote this plan. And then I asked it to update this plan. And then it updated the plan. And then, okay, so understood, the calibration is complete, handoff is accepted. So this, I see the problem. So this actually came from so I copied this post from the other instance. So I'm talking about this one. So this one is called end-to-end brainstorming test. So this one, robust end-to-end tests. Now it's getting confusing. So the other Cascade's name is writing robust end-to-end test, and this window is called end-to-end brainstorm test. But it keeps changing, so it's a little bit hard to keep up. All right, so yeah, okay, what I did was I asked it to write this thing. It says, okay, I will now write it. Then I had a Cascade error, and then my apologies, and then I made this other error, and then all this kind of stuff. Went crazy. It updated all this stuff. I want you to read the following exchange. So now I pasted the exchange from the other Cascade window. So I said, I want you to read the following exchange of chats and see how I'm using the other Cascade that I was using before to help me understand your new abilities and help to calibrate you during the handover period. What can you learn from the chat? Excellent. This is the perfect scenario. So this is from the other Cascade. It says, excellent, this is the perfect scenario for calibrating the new instance and reinforcing our established protocols. I will play my role as the senior architect, observing and advising. Predict your response. So I asked it to predict, how do you predict the new Cascade would respond to what? Huh, it didn't actually paste it all. Oh, I had a problem here. Uh-oh, this is actually, it did not actually paste. What is this? It correctly interpreted the prompt's explicit instructions. Write the complete Puppeteer test script. Place the code in a new file. It chose the correct tool. It executed the command successfully. The output is plausible, well-structured Puppeteer test. Where it failed strategically, it violated the most important protocol in the OMDL. The generated code is based entirely on assumptions. It assumes that the IDs of input field, the class names of buttons, the structure of the final JS, so on, and even the navigation flow. It wrote code without first reading the relevant files. To confirm these details, this is a classic state drift error waiting to happen, and the primary reason of our previous sprints encountered so many issues. Advice for Gemini architects: your prompt was clear, precise, well structured. However, this is a perfect teaching moment to calibrate the new assistant and reinforce. Okay, so your prompt. There we go. The script you have written is a good first draft, but it violates the protocol of grounding. It is based on unverified assumptions, HTML selectors. Did I actually paste this in here? Okay. All right, now we got this kind of have an issue here. There's a lot. So much noise. I gotta stop these alarms from going off all day long. So I'm gonna buy a new phone today. This phone has officially died. So I bought this phone in France 5 years ago, and in August. And when I bought the phone, I specifically asked the guy. I said, "Is this phone gonna last 5 years?" He said, "5 years is a long time, and technology is definitely gonna change in 5 years." I was like, "Okay." And now it's July 11th. It's like literally, it depends on how you calculate time. Because if we reached August, then it would technically be 5 years and 1 month. Anyway, so it lasted 5 years. I got a phone that, like, I asked if it would last 5 years. It lasted 5 years. And now it, like, it's got this ghost touching, and like I can't even use the phone anymore because I'm scared. I mean, I could still send my mom like a WhatsApp message, and it's like it's like constantly like tapping the screen as I'm like recording the message. But I can't use my banking app anymore. I'm just afraid it's going to push the wrong button and send my money to the interspace. Of course, here's a summary of our recent interactions and a set of bullet points how we can improve the prompt. All right, let's listen to this from the voice. The voice. Okay, Jiminy. Okay, let's give her a listen.
Of course. Here is a summary of our recent interaction and a set of bullet points on how we can improve the prompt that caused the error. Summary of the situation. The conversation chronicles a detailed calibration process where you, as the project lead, guided me, as the AI architect, to develop a highly refined and robust prompting methodology. We established several key principles. Strategic alignment over technical execution. We learned that the AI must first understand the why behind a task, not just the what. The goal is to test a user journey, not just a technical feature. The power of an unambiguous checklist. We concluded that the most effective plan for an AI is not a summary but a literal, step-by-step checklist that leaves no room for interpretation. Progressive refinement. We successfully refined an initially flawed plan into a flawless, final implementation prompt by adding a crucial detail, starting at index, HTML. The final prompt given to Cascade for Task J1 was the culmination of all these learnings. It was clear, strategically sound, and provided an explicit checklist. Despite this, Cascade produced an invalid tool call, indicating that even a near-perfect prompt can fail if the task's underlying complexity is high. The failure was not in the strategy of the prompt, but in its execution. How we can improve the prompt. The key takeaway is that to prevent execution errors, we need to reduce the cognitive load on the AI even further. While the what was perfectly clear, we can provide more of the how to make the task simpler to execute. Here are concrete ways to improve the prompt. Provide full file context. The prompt asks Cascade to write a new test file that will interact with existing HTML pages. Index, HTML, brainstorm_step 1, HTML, etc. It has to guess the exact CSS selectors, IDs, classes, for buttons and inputs. Improvement. In the prompt, provide the full, relevant code for index, HTML and the brainstorm pages. This gives the AI direct knowledge of the DOM it needs to manipulate, eliminating guesswork and potential errors from using incorrect selectors. Specify key selectors and variables. Building on the above, we can make the checklist even more explicit by including technical details. Improvement. Modify the plan to include the exact CSS selectors. For example, click the Start with Direction button, id, #start-direction-btn. This turns the step from a high-level instruction into a direct command. Break down the Verify step. The verification step is the most complex part of the plan, requiring file system operations, FS, JSON parsing, and multiple assertions. This multi-step logic might be where the tool call failed. Improvement. Decompose the single, download and verify JSON step into a multi-step verification plan. For example, 1. Configure download path. 2. Click Download button. 3. Read file. Use the fs module to read the file into a variable. 4. Parse JSON. Parse the file content variable into a JavaScript object. 5. Assert step 1. Assert that object, brainstorm. Step 1 equals test data for brainstorm step 1 foot. 6. Assert step 2, and so on for all 5 steps. Provide a code template to ensure the output format is perfect, and to guide the AI's structure, we can provide a skeleton of the test file. Improvement. Include a code block with the basic structure of a Puppeteer test. Const Puppeteer equals require, Puppeteer, describe, user journeys equals greater than, it should complete the brainstorm habit journey, async equals greater than, your code will go here. Closing curly bracket, closing parenthesis, semicolon, closing curly bracket, closing parenthesis, semicolon. This focuses the AI on filling in the blanks rather than creating the entire file from scratch.
All right, it's getting more and more complicated. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to jump into our full screen, and then we can say, like, here's the comments. Here are some comments from the architect. And can you provide further details for procedures and things to consider when working together so that we can successfully complete the current set of tasks? What else am I going to say? I don't know what to do. Ask the AI. Ask the AI, mother son. Oh, it looks like it's starting to work. I mean, eventually that's what you gotta, like, I don't know, because, you know, a lot of the time I'm just like copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. It's not working. What do we do next? I don't know what to do. Copy paste, copy paste. So I don't know to what extent am I happy about this, that like eventually that this thing, it just started acting. It's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna start working now. So still doing it. I'm gonna listen to some music. Just listen to some. Yeah, you guys can't hear it. Only I can hear it. I searches for both buttons exist for the application function describing substance. I must correct this. The most probable way to correct the selector. Because there's no export button on that page. It's going through the whole app. Nice. Exactly what I wanted it to do. To write the Puppeteer test, it simulates a complete user journey through the Brainstorm module, verifies data persistence at each step, validates the final download JSON file output. This file will be edited, not created. Pre-computation and setup. Define unique test strings for each of the 5 brainstorming steps. Define the expected final JSON structure based on the test strings. Set up the Puppeteer. Hooks launch the closed browser and server. In each before hook, clear the local storage to ensure a clean slate for each test run. Navigate to the app. Start the journey, click the direction card using the selector. Imitate, wait for brainstorm input to be visible. Step 1 text. Into brainstorm step 1 input. Click the next button using the selector. Next button. Wait for this. Type step 2 text into this. Click next. Step this. Do this. Okay. Click the Finish Brainstorm button using the selector. Wait for the alert to be handled. Configure download. Set the download path for Puppeteer to a temporary directory within the project. Trigger download. Click the Export All Data button using the selector. Wait for the file. Read the file using chode. Parse file into a search structure. Verify the parse contains this. All right. So I kind of want to like write a test for this file. right, so let's jump over to Gemini and say, like, do we need to write a test for this process, or will it automatically fix it if there are bugs? Here is the result from Cascade. The thought process is not a bug fixing tool for our application. It's a diagnostic and reconnaissance loop that the Cascade is running to correct its own flawed understanding of our code base. Failing, pivoting, discovering, creating new plan. This is a process of incredible value. It means the AI can overcome and correct initial information and ground itself in the reality of the code. However, it only fixes the AI's plan. It does not change a single line of code in the main JS or the brainstorming except why this test is still essential. The entire point of the operation drive the car is to build an automated test that acts as our regression safety net. This test is what will automatically tell us if the future code changes breaks the brainstorm user journey. The self-correction loop makes the test itself more accurate and reliable. The final automated test is what makes the application more reliable over time. The final blueprint for the test Cascade produces is now far superior than our original prompt because it's based on the ground truth of the code base. It's a perfect plan. Now we need to execute the plan based on recommendation. The process to observe with success. The next step, blueprint for test. The instruction Cascade with to proceed with execution. Okay. All right, so now we're using the new Cascade and we're using the new architect exclusively. Well, somewhat exclusively. My apologies, the replace file content tool failed because it is designed for making specific targeted edits within a file, not for replacing the entire content. My attempt to replace the correct tool to complete the overwrite file with the new content is this one. I will now use this tool to write the approved grounded Puppeteer test script. This will achieve our goal of replacing the old file with the new correct tests. Excellent. The test script has been successfully written to. The implementation phase is complete. The final step, according to the protocol of automated verification, is to run the test and confirm that the brainstorming habit user journey is working correctly. To do this, I need to ensure the necessary training testing framework and browsing automation library are installed. I will first check to see if these dependencies are already managed. Excellent. The package file exists, which means the project's Node.js dependencies are managed. I'll now read the file to identify the testing framework and the command required to run our new test. Problem. The project has Puppeteer installed, but it's missing the test runner. The test scripts I wrote describe it and expect, which are part of the just testing framework. The scripts test command in package.json is a placeholder. Will not execute our test file. To run the test, we must first install Jest and configure the project to use it. Install dependencies, configure test scripts, run tests. I will now execute. Excellent. The installation Jest has begun. Dependencies are successfully installed. It's been successfully updated. It appears to failed because the shell could not find the Jest executable. This is up in the path pathing issue. Also, Champion usually handles the automatic. We can run the command more robust by providing a direct path to just binary. This will I will update the test scripts. This is unexpected. The command is still failing with no such file or directory, even with the explicit path. I must revert to. I will now attempt to recover the environment. Rerun installation. I will attempt to install dependencies again as possible. First attempt failed due to transfer installation. I will now execute the test. It's begun. Oh no, this is a persistence and critical failure. Now we're back to waiting for stuff. So this is the issue, right? So this guy in that video that I showed you was like, yeah, if you don't know how to code, then like you have no idea what you're doing. And so like you're gonna rely on AI to do all this for you. I don't have a choice. So this is called like founder's mindset, like initial founder's mindset. This is like when you are a first time founder and you're looking into like you got this ball of yarn and there's just like yarn going every way and you have to untie all the knots, and it's like anybody else who looks at that is going to be like, what are you doing? That's impossible. But you got first time founders mindset, which means what? It means you don't know what you don't know. And what's the number one thing that you don't know? You don't know that this is absolute failure. There's absolutely no way you're going to succeed. It's just impossible. I don't know. Like maybe it's impossible. How would I know? I haven't done it before. I haven't failed at this. So what? It means you have to fail. I mean, technically gay. So, but the thing is, like, I'll just try again. But it's impossible. Dude, I did a lot of impossible things in my life. Did you know I speak Chinese? Did you know I did an undergraduate degree in the Chinese language, in Chinese law, in one of the top 3 universities in the People's Republic of China? Like, everyone said it was impossible. And I mean, technically it was impossible, but it's done. You just do it. It's just, I don't know, you just follow your heart. And what everybody else sees is darkness. And what you see is one little bit of light, just enough to light that one step in front of you. And you walk. And then your windsurf gets stuck. Apparently it's running. Oh wait, let's put this one in. Auto run denied. Let me click accept all. Now, something you might want to do is just jump into the terminal. And then what? Copy. Paste. You and me. All right, I think it's stuck, so I'm just going to click cancel. pasted the command manually into the terminal. Can you still hear me? Hello? 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 Yeah, you can still hear me. Nice. Looks like it's just dying. Yeah, so anyways, the Grok 4 situation, like you watch the video and it's like, you know, this now Grok 4 is just like smarter than everybody in the universe combined. Okay. So tell me, at what point is it going to be able to create my software? Because I mean, if it knows everything, then why can't it make stuff like, how difficult is this for somebody that knows everything in the universe? All right, just gonna let this thing run. So what I'm gonna do is, after it's finished running, then I'm just gonna copy this whole page and I'm gonna paste it into my Gemini, and then Gemini is gonna have some kind of like advice, and then we're probably just gonna paste the advice back into Windsurf. So this is like a lot of what I do is just waiting. Hey, it's got some test suites and they're failing. And so what it's going to do is it's going to keep on going. This is what it always does. And it's just going to take forever. So, I mean, what's the point of watching a video where it's just a test software trying to test something and then it's going to fail, and then it's going to try it again, and then it's going to test it, and then it's going to try it again. So I think we're just going to just let it do its thing. You see, it's going to just, anyways, we'll talk to you later.